area you have, the worse, the more likely these are able to get into the eye or cause inflammation such as this. And what you can see in these eyes, here is white here at the 6 o'clock position, where we have what's called sclerosing keratitis. As the inflammation is getting worse, here's a microfilaria in the eye. And in this case, you can see the eye is completely opacified due to the inflammation that has resulted from the microfilaria being in the eye. And this young man is blind from river blindness. Well, 90 million people are at risk of this condition. It's estimated that 34 million are infected in 37 countries, 30 of those in Africa. Some 800,000 people are either blind or severely visually handicapped, but it's rarely fatal. The manifestations not only include blindness and visual loss, but terrible skin rashes and awful itching. The itching is like total body poison ivy. Here is a young boy leading both a blinded woman and a blinded man through a street by the sticks, similar to that statue I showed you that is at the Carter Center. And here you see an individual who has depigmentation of his shins, what we call leopard skin, due to the years and years of chronic inflammation from having these parasites in his skin. Here's an individual who is both blinded, and I think you can make out the shiny shins here that represents another manifestation of river blindness. Now, Merck and Company developed a medicine called ivermectin, brand name Mectizan, which kills the microfilaria. Unfortunately, it does not kill the adult worms in those nodules. So it is not a curative treatment, but it is a treatment that reduces the number of microfilaria in someone's skin. If given annually, you basically prevent anyone from going blind and get rid of the itching and the skin rashes. So for people who are suffering from these conditions, it's a really great medicine, and people are very, very excited to get it. President Carter has been involved in this distribution program from the beginning. Here he is with Roy Vagelos, the Chief Executive Officer of Merck, around the time when the decision for the donation was made, here on a visit to Chad. And this graph shows the growth of the donation program since 1988, when the distributions began, through the year 2006. Now about 60 million people are being treated per year throughout the world with this medicine. The green bar here shows where we need to go. This is what we call our ultimate treatment goal. If everyone on the planet was being treated who needs to be treated with Mectizan, we would need to treat about 90 million people. The difficulty in moving from these red bars to the final green bar now really relates to failed states in Africa, places where it's difficult to go because of war or population displacement, and failed states. Just quickly, what the Carter Center does is it works in 11 countries, 6 in the Americas, shown here, and 5 in Africa. And of course, we're going to be focusing our discussion on Nigeria and really this little red dot right there. Here are the Carter Center's treatment curves since the Carter Center began its activities in 1996. For the last 5 years, we've been treating roughly 10 million people a year with our partners, the Lions and the Ministries of Health in the countries where we work. And in November 2007, we had a real big milestone where we celebrated 100 million cumulative treatments with Mectizan for river blindness, with ivermectin. If you're interested, the cost per treatment in Carter Center assisted programs is about 50 cents. It ranges depending on where we're working and the infrastructure and the challenges, ranging from 10 cents per treatment to about $1.50. The value of a dose of the medicine is about $3. That is what Merck has contributed to this effort. What I want to show you here is a little bit of impact. What we have is a cohort or a group of 411 persons in southern Nigeria, followed over an 8-year period, and here's what the impact has looked like. We've seen nodule rates in this cohort dropping from 60% to under 20%, visual impairment dropping from about 17% to about 1%, and the dermatitis, the itchy rash, dropping from about 15% to about 3%. Very little change in the permanent condition of the leopard skin, but a dramatic impact. This is a tailor who's reporting to us one of the great stories that before he started taking medicine, he was unable to thread his needles, and now he's able to do so. Okay, that's river blindness. Let me jump to another condition, lymphatic filariasis, much more widely spread than river blindness. It's a disease of rural as well as peri-urban poverty. Over 1 billion at risk, 120 million people in the world infected in 80 countries. It is a leading cause of disability. Some estimates have said the second or third leading cause globally of disability. It is, again, like a neglected tropical disease, rarely fatal. You've all heard of elephantiasis, swollen legs. This is what causes elephantiasis. A very similar worm to the one that causes river blindness, generating microfilaria. These circulate in the blood. Here's a microfilaria in the blood. The adult worms, rather than living in nodules under the skin, live in the lymphatics and therefore obstruct flow of lymphatic fluid and cause swollen extremities, like you see here. Mosquitoes transmit this infection. They bite, they suck blood, they pick up the parasite, it develops in the mosquitoes, and they transmit it to other people. Here's an individual with a large leg. You can see here an ulcer. Very often, these large legs become traumatized and get infected. People suffer from fevers. And here's a picture from the front of your pamphlet, Nigeria. Another individual suffering from Nigeria. Now, one thing that's very rarely mentioned, but as a matter of fact is even more common than the large legs, is male urogenital disease. And this individual has fluid in his scrotum, which we call a hydrocele. Can you imagine, guys, carrying that around in the field all day, working in an agricultural area? You can also imagine the impact on sexual function and relationships in the family. And speaking about the female side, here's a young woman who has the face of lymphatic filariasis, a very sad face, because she is unable to be married because of this foot. And you can see her swollen ankle, and you can also see all of these small incisions made by traditional healers, local witch doctors, trying to remove the fluid unsuccessfully from her foot, paid for by her mother and her grandmother, who really dread the fact that she may never be able to get married in this traditional society. There is an effort to completely eliminate this condition. It's been done in China. It's been almost done in the South Pacific. And the idea is to use mass drug administration to stop mosquitoes from getting infected so that ultimately no one will have the infection and you can stop treatments. The treatment is a combination of the Mectizan, which I showed you before. You might recognize this box down here. That's the Mectizan box, donated by Merck, and another medicine called albendazole, which is donated by another large pharmaceutical company, GlaxoSmithKline, GSK. These two medicines also happen to be the absolute best medicines that you can give in combination to knock off intestinal worms. So what we call STHs, soil-transmitted helminths, which is just these big round worms that you can see here on this map, on this photograph. These medicines are great for purging people of these worms and helping with that condition as well as an ancillary benefit. Health education, washing the legs, another key component. Health education is key for whatever we do. Now, the third disease I want to tell you about, the third worm, is schistosomiasis. There are several different kinds of schistosomiasis. In Africa, there are two to consider, particularly here in Nigeria, and one is called urinary schistosomiasis, and the other is called intestinal schistosomiasis. Again, schisto is a disease of rural and peri-urban poverty. Over 650 million people are at risk, 200 million infected, 76 countries. It has both major and subtle morbidity, and again, rarely fatal, as neglected tropical diseases are. Here are the worms. There's a male worm and a female worm. The female worm produces eggs, and these worms will actually live in the bloodstream. They live in the veins, in small veins, And the eggs, here's